Welcome in to the Fantasy Football Addicts live stream, and we are your hosts, Mike the Fantasy Addict, and co-host Nikki B.
That is me.
Feeling hot in here, ready with some hot takes, some hot rookie prospects.
I'm ready.
We are going to stream this one live on Twitch.
We'll do it live!
But we're going to record it and throw it up for YouTube. We're going to focus a little bit more on some of that YouTube content in the off season.
My body is ready.
All right, me also. So
Don't forget to bring a towel.
let's dive right in.
I got a question for you.
All right, I got an answer.
If
Here
you
we
were
go.
going to take all of your Dynasty, 100% of your off-season studying, do you do it more now so after the NFL draft or right before the season starts? Like if you had to share out your time.
Probably the best time when you have the best picture would be right after the NFL draft. If I was only going to do one show talking about the rookies, because then you have the combine information, then you have the draft. I like to do in three phases. I like to kind of have an idea of all the rookies before the combine, an idea after the combine, and then an idea after the NFL draft, because each stage will kind of reset where people are, how people feel about everyone, kind of where they go as far as your rookie draft. We like to wait on our rookie draft. Some people like to do it as soon as possible just because they get restless. But
I like to at least get familiar with the names, kind of get some early, ideas, and we can talk maybe a little landing spots later too. But yeah, at least get familiar with the names and kind of profiles a little bit.
all right, so we're gonna dive right in.
Just jump right in?
Yep, we're gonna just go.
I'm into it.
Quick preview of the rookies to know.
Okay.
So we'll start at the top. Number one wide receiver in a lot of people's minds. This isn't necessarily the order that we would draft him in, but the guy I like the best, that I would probably take at the 1-1 right now, is Treylon Burks, wide receiver out of Arkansas, 6'3", 225 pounds.
But Mike, running backs always go first.
People say that. I think that it's interesting to take a look back at the running back versus wide receiver ones that have gone in the past. So this last year, we had probably Najee Harris or Jamar Chase. I would personally rather have Jamar Chase.
I was gonna take Jamar Chase number one over Najee. So
The year before, we had Clyde Edwards-Helaire was largely taken as the 1-1. In hindsight, not the best move. So maybe you were going against the grain and you took Jonathan Taylor. In that case, you feel good. But if you had followed kind of the trends, you probably took Clyde Edwards-Helaire versus like a CD Lamb. I would rather have CD Lamb than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. There is a longer shelf life, generally speaking, for wide receivers. Our Dynasty League also, we start 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. So it depends on the league that you are in.
And I think what we've seen the last couple of years is a lot of those high-end running backs getting hurt. So wide receivers seems to be health-wise even a little bit more stable position. But back to the rookies.
So part of the reason that I like Treylon Burks is, first of all, and to my eyes, he's one of the guy who looks like he could be an alpha wide receiver in this class. There's a lot of guys with talent, a lot of smooth guys, a lot of guys with good pedigree, good college production, but they kind of have smaller builds, a little more slender. And Treylon, he's got that. So I have player comps for everybody. Let's jump right in. The one that he has is A.J. Brown. He's got, he's physical build. I believe he has like 5XL gloves. He just has natural gifts that you can't teach.
Does he have knees, though?
That's, he's doing better than A.J. Brown. So hopefully he doesn't follow that trend. But
man,
you could throw him in the DK Metcalf kind of realm as well. Just those big-bodied, guys that are made to be alphas.
And what I notice, what's interesting about Treylon Burks is they use him a lot in the running game, almost Deebo Samuel-esque, kind of a hybrid role. So that may be an interesting kind of trait coming into the NFL as well.
So just some notes I wrote down after watching a little bit of tape. He's big, he's smooth, he moves well, and he's well-rounded. He has good college numbers, everything you want to see from a wide receiver. He is pretty much everywhere I've heard the number one wide receiver in most people's eyes, if not the first, the top 3.
Yeah.
Again, pre-combine, and just the knock I've heard is just a little bit raw. His route running isn't great, but hopefully that means that there's room for further development.
What's interesting about him and being number one as well is some of the guys we're going to talk about later kind of are going through some injuries or had some injuries this season. So we may be in an area where he's number one because he's been the healthiest all year and put up some good performances. So it'll be interesting to see how the draft shakes out.
So that is who I like at the 1-1.
Yeah, I'm going to get one. For show. For show. I'm getting that for show.
Oh, yeah.
All right, next one on the list, we do move back to the running backs. So we've got Breece Hall, running back out of Iowa State, 6'1", 220 pounds. And
6'1", it's a pretty big boy.
it's interesting. I've been listening to a lot of different, analysts, commentators, people that are plugged into the fantasy world. And Breece Hall is not the consensus. Not everyone feels the same. I've seen a couple other names go above him. But I think that Breece is just, he's got a lot of the things you look for in just a solid guy who could become a workhorse back for a team. He's got good size. I like the 6'1", 220. Good vision. He's good on the goal line, which is always nice. You don't want a wide receiver, or you don't want a running back who's going to come in and get that goal line carries taken away, even if he's playing well.
Time out real quick. We were going to record this for YouTube, and I'm like, okay, well, let's just avoid the chat, right? So I was talking quietly. And then the screen outed me that we're in chat here.
Oh, that's all
continue.
right.
It's fine.
We
Welcome in,
appreciate
Totter. How
the
are
chat.
you?
Totter, good to see you.
Welcome in. Totter's a little light on draft picks in our Dynasty League, so
Gotcha.
he's already trying to work the system.
Well,
here.
he's getting an insight into who I personally don't have any first-round draft picks at the moment.
I have
but
4.
maybe I fall in love with some of these players, and I decide I want to trade for them. I've got players to trade, so
I've got 4 picks at the 2-2 or better. So
gotcha. All
pretty
right.
interesting. I'm listening to everything you're saying over here.
All right. So Breece Hall again. Good vision, patient runner. Picks his spots well. The comps that I've heard for him, kind of the high end comp would be Le'Veon Bell in his prime, not Le'Veon Bell as of the last
Of now,
3 years.
not the Jets Le'Veon Bell.
But again, who just kind of sets up his blocks, has that patience, can hit the hole.
And he seems like a good scorer. All the highlights I've seen and a little bit of tape I've watched, he gets in the end zone, which is a highly valuable trait.
Definitely, and that's one of the reasons he is one of the running backs on the list with the higher touchdown total. The other comp you'll hear is, you're going to plug your ears, but David Montgomery. And a lot of this comes because they both went to Iowa
You ever
State.
seen a David Montgomery by itself?
David has had
Not
his
for me.
moments. So we'll call this, instead of a poor man's, this is a rich man's David Montgomery.
Okay.
So possibly the better version of David. But David has been, a successful running back in a lot of ways.
Sad yet productive.
So Breece Hall, running back to know, he'll very likely be going in the first round of your rookie drafts.
Yep.
All right, we're going to go on to the next one. So this one is against the grain. I have listened to drafts where people
Is this your number 3 or is this?
This is more my number 3
okay.
after,
Okay.
we can't just regurgitate everybody else's takes.
Okay.
All right, so this one is Zach Charbonnet, running back out of UCLA, 6'1", 220 pounds. So when I was looking him up, the same size as Breece Hall, according to this, looks bigger to me on tape.
You like big boys.
I like big running backs, and I cannot lie.
I like big backs, and I cannot lie. I
There
think
you
that's
go.
a fair first
So the
statement.
thing I liked about Charbonnet is he just, again, some guys, it's interesting. You look and they're listed at the same size. Some look bigger on tape than others. Like some guys, I think it was Michael Carter to me, looked bigger than his actual measurements when I was watching his tape last year. But Charbonnet just moves well. He was a guy that, despite his size, had some big plays. He would break some longer ones. I like to see that in the running backs because it is translate well for fantasy when they can rip off those big chunks, possibly have longer runs for touchdowns. The notes I wrote down: fast for his size, thick. He's a thick guy. Yeah.
One thing though, I think you're still reeling from the Ramondre hype of the season. I think you're trying to profile a second Ramondre. So we'll pump the brakes a little bit. I think. Yes, he looks like a quality candidate to maybe be this high, but most rankings have him kind of later in the first, early second.
The other thing I liked about Charbonnet was his stiff arm. He's got a nasty stiff arm, which I appreciate. And the comps for him, they were interesting. I came up with one of my own, and there was one that I found online. The one I found online was Adrian Peterson. So obviously that's the high-end comp. That's, if he hit his absolute ceiling.
Right.
We don't expect for him to come out and
It can be play style comp.
Yeah,
I mean, it
yeah.
doesn't have to be production comp.
The one that I saw a little bit, he looks like a bigger James Conner to me. So I know you don't like James Conner as well. But James Conner, he has a little bit of angry run in him. He's fine. He's got a nose for the end zone. He has some good hands, like not great hands, but definitely passable.
Well, also in today's NFL, where there's a lot of running back by committees, and if there's no alpha running backs in this class, you may want the guy that is going to score touchdowns. He's going to be the red zone threat. So I think you either need the pass catcher or the guy who's going to score the touchdowns, which it seems like he could be that guy.
So that is likely the highest you'll hear Zach Charbonnet on any list. But if it comes to fruition, you can remember it. If not, completely forget.
Who's next?
All right, we're going running back again. We're sticking with the running back spot. And a lot of that is because in your Dynasty rookie drafts, a lot of times the running backs do get pushed up through the combine as we get closer. People need running backs.
Everybody needs running back.
Harder to find.
Yep. And you only get about 4 years out of them.
So this next one on the list is one that I don't personally like.
I'm with you on
and
this.
we have talked a little bit, but Isaiah Spiller, running back out of Texas A&M, 6'1", 215 pounds. I do like the size. He looks lighter than that, though. I was talking about how guys look different on tape. Looks a little bit lighter. He's got the long legs. I worry about the long, kind of slender legs on a running back because there's just a lot of leg to get caught up in tackles, get hit from certain angles. And the other thing was he was catchable. Like, you didn't see him he'd break through the first line and he'd usually get tackled at the second level.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So
he's a high-profile receiving back is basically what I've seen so far. If you watch any of his highlight tape, I'd say more than 50% of it is going to be him catching the ball. So I think that's probably his, but again, in today's NFL, if he can catch 6 balls a game, I mean, he's going to be valuable.
Yeah, this might be harsh, but we just got the drops back and going for this episode. So.
This guy. This is not my kind of guy.
If I had a top 3 pick, he would not be the guy that I would pick with that spot.
Not yet. We'll wait for the combine and everything. I'm hoping I have the 1-3 and the 1-5. I hope I'm not forced to take him.
And just to further throw gas on the hate fire, the comp that I found was Miles Sanders, and Miles Sanders has disappointed.
Do you know what my comp was going to be? Miles Gaskin.
Okay. Even worse. Whoosh. So let's talk some of the positives, though. He did have good college production.
For sure.
He is, I believe, one of the youngest players to declare in the entirety of the NFL draft. I believe he is 20 years old right now.
That.
So in Dynasty, it is nice to have the young age.
Yep.
And decent hands. So I think that Spiller, I've seen both ways. I've had some analysts that he's their 1-1, and I've had others. I just listened to the BDGE guys, and they were talking about, they were seeing the same things as us. They just felt like, I believe the stat that they were talking about was one of the guys, their analysts compared the running backs yardage compared to other running backs on his team, and he had poor numbers in that area, which is kind of a red flag. So
interesting.
Isaiah Spiller is one that I would worry could be a little busty if you're going running back.
Be interesting to see what draft capital he gets, for sure.
All right, and sticking with guys that we are not the biggest fans of, wide receiver out of USC, Drake London, 6'5". 6'5" is a big old boy, 210 pounds, and my thoughts on him, the notes I wrote down, he's got big hands. I did not see a lot of yards after the catch. And he's just tall. He looks tall. Like some guys, they say 6'5", and you look at him, and the combine comes out, I was like, oh, he was 6'3" that whole time. He looks tall. He does. He's got those big tree frog hands. He's just reaching out, getting the ball. Yeah. Good contested catch guy.
Correct. He's a very good receiver. Is he a good fantasy receiver? It's going to be the thing. I just, you're right. He goes down early from contact. He doesn't have a whole lot of yak yardage. He does have great hands, though. You got to give him that.
Yeah. It'll depend on his landing spot to a certain degree.
Right now. So,
and that doesn't help. So the injuries push guys down. There's another guy way down my list that maybe I pushed him down too far for the injury, but we'll talk about him coming up.
Okay.
All right. So after Drake London, the comps that we had for him, there were 2 Mikes. So
Mike Williams,
being a Mike, the one that we heard was Mike Williams, which would be kind of the. And Mike Williams has had a relevant fantasy career. He isn't your favorite.
He's had relevant fantasy games.
Yes. And the higher end would be Mike Evans is one that I've heard him.
I like that
too. So Mike Evans, if you get Mike Evans, you're pretty happy. If you get Mike Williams at this level in the draft, if you could get him late in the first round, you'd be pretty okay with it. But
no Chase Claypool comp there.
Claypool seems more. I'm trying to think of the right way. Like
tight endy,
like built more. He looks like he'd run through a wall more than Drake London did to me. And he gets yards after the catch
for sure.
All right, so the next one on the list, a wide receiver, the Wist. Garrett Wilson, wide receiver out of Ohio State, 6 foot, 192 pounds.
There's arguments for him being the 1-1 from what I've seen across the Reddit.
I've heard Garrett Wilson as being one of the most can't-miss guys going in the first round as far as the wide receivers. Just polished, had a very good production at Ohio State, which has good competition. The notes I wrote down for him, good separation. He was one that you watch the tape and you just always seem to be open. Kind of that DeAndre Hopkins where it's like, why is nobody covering this guy? We know he's good, right?
Did you see my tweet today by chance?
Oh, I apologize.
We'll cover it at the end. Keep covering your guy, but I'll let you know what my tweet is.
And the other thing with Garrett Wilson, he's good off the line. He's got a good first move. He's got kind of that good hand fighting. That is a skill. You see it with Devontae Adams, guys like that. Those aren't the comps I had, though. Garrett Wilson was interesting. It was another one where I found a high-end comp and a low-end comp. The high end was Stephon Diggs, who has had,
I like Stephon Diggs.
a very solid career, especially in Buffalo. And the lower-end one was Mecole Hardman. So Mecole has been...
That might be a product of situation, too.
Well, Mecole, you would agree, is in a pretty solid situation on a high-powered offense with a good quarterback.
I disagree.
But he has tougher competition to overtake to become an alpha.
That's the thing.
Okay.
You're going against two premium options in the NFL, which is tough to kind of get your niche. But I think honestly, Mecole's been better as of late. But
That's pretty neat.
All right, next one on the
you
list.
ready for my tweet?
Yes.
All right. So the tweet was there was a negative correlation for yards of separation in college stats. So if you were looking at the list of receivers and you want the highest rated guys for yards of separation, those are not your kind of guys. It is negatively correlative for fantasy production because usually they're more separation because they're not the premium option on the team, so they don't get covered as well. And yes, guys just aren't looking for them to be that premium option. So
It's a little counterintuitive.
it is a little, for sure.
However, I have heard that one of the stickier things, one of the things that does translate well to the NFL is route running. So is he open because of the separation, or is he open because of good route running?
You could dissect it, but it's pretty damning for the guys that have the
What I have heard is it's more the route running that helps him get open.
Okay.
He's not just burning down the sideline like
Again, you know when you see your daughters run and they flail their hands on the side?
a lot of hop skips they throw in.
That is Wilson running down the field. His routes may be crisp, but his arms are flailing. So
You don't want the flail arms.
No, he's an interesting guy to watch, but hey, it's harder for the defensive back to kind of hit his arms, I guess. So
All right, next one up, we got. So let's see. We just did Garrett Wilson,
Yep.
right? Next one we got is David Bell, wide receiver out of Purdue, 6'2", 205 pounds.
I don't want to give away my secrets, but I like David Bell.
Yeah, David Bell and Garrett Wilson, when I watch them, they kind of have similar builds. They look a little bit similar on tape. David Bell, to me, seemed a little meh. Like, he had nice routes. He had, what I noticed was good body control.
He's Keenan Allen. I watch him, I see Keenan Allen. I don't know why. You can say what you want. I don't know what your comps are. But
David Bell has a nice spin move.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and use Keenan Allen as the high-end comp, and I've got the lower-end one for you. A guy who's actually been good when he gets on the field but has been injured. Sterling Shepard is the comp that I found for him. Sterling Shepard is a good wide receiver.
Effective when he's on the field.
Yeah, he's got, he could be that guy that gets a lot of receptions a game, maybe isn't breaking off the giant plays. So I like that for David Bell. And that's similar
Also,
for
I saw an
Keenan Allen.
interview recently where David Bell said he was modeling his game after Allen Robinson. That's one of his, guys that he's been looking at and kind of working towards. So,
yep. All of the guys that we have listed off so far are 21 years of age or younger. The only two we have, Drake London and Isaiah Spiller, are 20, as well as Breece Hall right now is 20.
okay.
All the rest 21. Next one
Breece
on the
Hall,
list.
20. That's nice.
So this is one.
Najee Harris is 32 years old. Did you know that?
Najee is as a
Just turned-
grandfather.
Happy birthday.
He's actually 7 times as old as Zach Wilson, if you didn't know that. Next one on the list, George Pickens, wide receiver out of Georgia, 6'3", 200 pounds. And Pickens is one that I think it's one that maybe in the past when you didn't listen to 1,000 shows and have a million analysts talking about, maybe would have slipped through the cracks,
Right.
but everybody's pretty aware. Basically, the things I noticed about him was he's just a good player. He just looks good when you watch him play. He's making athletic plays. There's nothing that jumps out as being like, oh my gosh, he's lightning fast, but he just
He has good body control. He catches the ball well, and he seems into the game. He seems locked in and aware of his surroundings. Where some of these guys, they'll catch the ball and then have no idea where they're at, or not have an idea where they're running. He catches the ball and he knows exactly what he's going to do with it. Knows exactly where he's going. He seems pretty polished from what I've seen so far.
Oh, I like that.
Here's the thing about Pickens. They're going to need to change this taunting rule because when I watch Pickens highlights, Pickens is a cocky dude.
Yeah.
And some people love that in their wide receivers. Some don't. I personally I like a little bit of humbleness, but that is what led me to my comp, Chad Johnson. He's got some Chad Johnson to him of just that. He
I
gets
don't know
up
who that
and
is.
he's looking for somebody to tell about how great his catch was. And he's looking for that DB, and he wants to let him know that he caught it.
I've never heard of this person.
So George Pickens, a bit of an attitude, and it might serve him well because he does have good talent to go
Welcome in,
with.
Greg. Go Bears. Yeah.
Now to back it up.
Hey, this is the
Greg,
Bears'
good to
best
see
time
ya.
of the season. They can't lose. So
Oh, well, they did just hire a new coach and offensive coordinator, so hopefully those were wins. But time will tell.
Hey, another roll of the dice. We'll see what happens.
All right, after George Pickens, next one we got on the list is back to running back. Kenneth Walker, running back out of Michigan State, 5'10", 210 pounds, so a little bit small.
Some people are taking Walker as the first running back off the board.
5'10", 210, that's not bad for size. It's, about as small as I want to.
It's like double C thick, but just a little short.
Yeah. So here's the thing: is he had 1,646 yards, 18 touchdowns this past year. 2 bad years prior to that before he transferred. Stone
AJ?
hands.
How are you?
Not great hands.
Stone
that
hands?
would be the knock. So
You got to have hands.
you do need some hands. It helps to have hands. And
Is the comp going to be Antonio Gibson?
the comps are not great comps that I have for this.
Okay.
So Kenneth Walker, again, running back out of Michigan. The comps that I got, the first one that I am considering the high-end one is like a Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard, I think a lot of people agree, is a decent running back. He's obviously been behind Ezekiel Elliott, but he has been relevant for fantasy at times.
True.
Now, here's the one. A guy that he reminded me of just a little bit is one that's been a guy I just kept hoping would become a thing, Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones, when he runs the ball, is a good runner. He makes some big plays that are impressive. Doesn't have great hands. He's got some hands, but not great hands. So maybe he could be a Ronald Jones that pans out. Maybe he could be a Ronald Jones that's Ronald Jonesing. Maybe Ronald becomes something this year on a new team.
AJ, we're recording this for YouTube for 3 people to watch it. We'll be with your question here shortly.
Yep.
Thanks
After we do the rookie rundown, we'll jump into
got
the
like
chat
3 more to go.
and hit some of the news from the week. All right. So after Kenneth Walker, running back out of Michigan, we got Chris Olave, who is a wide receiver out of Ohio State, 6 foot, 190 pounds.
He's Jalen Reagor, right?
I don't have him as Jalen Reagor as my comp. So here's the thing about Chris Olave. He was more highly touted last year, did not declare for the draft, stayed another year, got surpassed by some other guys on his team like Garrett Wilson. And you don't want the guy who sticks around too long and all of a sudden doesn't look as good and other guys are surpassing him. But he is a solid wide receiver. He's pretty polished. Comes from a good football school in Ohio State where they develop wide receivers well.
He's had good performance, and he was just kind of outshined this year by his teammate. But I don't know. He looks like the easiest bust candidate of any name I've seen so far. But
I disagree a little bit. I think he's a safe guy that you'll be able to play for fantasy football who won't ever probably become that wide receiver 1 top 12 guy. But I think he could very well find himself in that, a lot of receptions, solid player on a team, the number 2.
He's like hitting all the benchmarks for Chuba. Chuba, great production, stayed in school the extra year, tanked, was in the NFL, didn't look like he had the chops for it to be an elite guy or a
And again,
RB2
Chuba had
event.
games of relevance, but wasn't a guy that you were, just super excited for.
Games of relevance doesn't help.
Sometimes it does.
You need dozens of games of relevance.
So the player comps were kind of Tyler Lockett. The other one was a faster Calvin Ridley.
Okay.
So those are, again,
Calvin Ridley is a pretty good route runner. That'd be a nice comp.
so that was the other thing was Chris Olave, a good route runner. It'd be interesting if he ended up on the Falcons and kind of, they tried to do the similar things.
Here's the thing too: is like it could be a ringing endorsement if a team takes him in the top 50 picks
Because they probably scouted him, and they probably,
100%.
they've had more time to get to know him and know what he offers.
Yeah.
I think that there will be leagues where some people love Chris Olave and some are just full fade. So
I agree.
next one on the list. This one I've got higher than a lot of people also. This is not one that he probably shouldn't be this high on the list, but I do believe that just a lot of leagues you're going to get people that see running back from Alabama, like, I'll just take that guy.
Yeah.
So Brian Robinson, running back out of Alabama, 6'1", 225 pounds, good size, power runner. It'll depend on his landing spot.
He's a fifth-year senior, Mike.
If he lands on a team where he can get some opportunity, he could be
He's
a relevant
100 years old.
1 or 2 guy. So he has 22.8 years of age.
I think he's balding. I think is what I
I
saw.
might have just. It's hard to tell if he just shaved his head. But again, he's got a power runner, a solid build from Alabama, and it'll be dependent on the landing spot. If he goes to a spot where he's actually going to get involved and be a goal line guy, let's say he lands on the Chargers or something like that, and they, so Brian Robinson, probably not worthy of being in the top 12, but a guy that I think will creep into some of those top 12s, and also depending on his combine, see how that goes. All right, at the number 12 spot, a guy that could go higher depending on.
You got 2 minutes, Mike.
All right, Jamison Williams, wide receiver out of Alabama, 6'2", 190 pounds.
Been kind of a hot name.
Tore his ACL in the national championship, and that's why he's fallen down board. Some people had him as the number 1 wide receiver in their draft.
Yep.
Tough in Dynasty. Tough to take a guy who's injured. We have a lot of history of guys who get injured that are high prospects. Rashad Bateman was just one, and they miss the camp. They don't get involved right away. They lag. It takes time. Do you have time to wait for a guy to come back from that injury and develop?
Well, and the thing, too, is it's damning if they don't have a certain benchmark in their rookie season.
Yeah.
If Jamison Williams is still kind of banged up and doesn't get in until week 4 and then is kind of, it's really just not a great trajectory for him based on that case. If he's healthy and comes back and he's fine, then it's a different story.
The other knock is he was a speedster type guy, and sometimes those guys get turned into field stretchers and don't have as great of fantasy production.
Right.
A comp was Jalen Waddle. He is 20 years old, 20.8.
Okay.
So plenty of time for him to be in the league. I'll just do 2 honorable mentions. One that I've heard a lot is Kyron Williams, running back out of Notre Dame, 5'9", 195 pounds. Too small. Good hands, too small. This year's Kenny Gainwell. I don't want him.
Okay.
Next one on the list is Jalen Whittemire, wide receiver out of Texas A&M. And he is my this year's Tamarion Terry, who, RIP.
People are on like him, though.
Yeah, Terry without the murder.
There's believers.
He's just a big-bodied guy.
Without the murder is preferably the
I've seen him listed as both 6'5" and 6'6", 265 to 256 pounds. So maybe one day he skipped lunch.
Right.
But he's big. He's smooth. He looks good for his size. He's one that if he falls down, I'd be happy to try and trade to, the early second round to get a share of him, because I think that it's interesting, though, however, how some of these big-bodied guys, the 6'5" wide receivers, don't seem to last.
Don't seem to pan out.
But if they could, they're so tall.
Well, thank you for joining us for a little rookie preview. If you're here through the Twitch channel, we're going to keep going for a little bit longer. So sit tight, hang out with us.
All right.
Final thoughts?
Yeah, again, we're going to throw that on YouTube. If you're just finding us on YouTube and you want to jump in on Twitch, go ahead. You can create an account for free and go in there, search the Fantasy Football Addicts. We'll pop up, and you can join us and jump in the live stream and get some extra bonus content that you won't see on YouTube.
And we'll probably do this after the combine, after the draft, and right before the season as well. So it'll be a good comparison, kind of start to finish.
Talking football.
Always. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.